welcome to our second episode of Healthcare in India. I'm Sukant Purana, Dr. Sukant Purana, not a physician, but a scientist doctor. With me, there is Ramesh Kari Raghavan, who's a collaborator in several projects, co-host of this podcast. Ramesh has been a scientist, he's been an advertising professional, and he is a co-founder of Iron Cure with me. With us, there is Dr. Dipashri Konar. Dr. Dipashri Konar is both a physician and a scientist who's done her medicine in India, is currently in Chhattisgarh. She's been trained in US also. She's an epidemiologist and a practicing scientist. We have a lot of shared interest in getting strains of mycobacteria and looking at infectious diseases in India. Then we have with us Dr. Sharath Krishnaswamy. Dr. Sharath Krishnaswamy is an anesthesiologist and a science communicator. You should check out some of his science communication work, really brilliant podcast. So today, in this second episode, we are going to discuss COVID-19, and we want to give a fair warning. We are wanting to sort of discuss things in a very honest way, that what are the negatives, what are the crises, not to criticize any state or central government, but to use this as an opportunity to try to fix the system and to even discuss what can a private sector do, right? Like, we are a small startup as I'm doing. What can we do and what can others do? Have an honest discussion about it. So I'll basically start with Ramesh. Ramesh, what would you like to sort of summarize the whole COVID-19 situation? I'm not necessarily asking you about the details. I mean, there has been the whole timeline of different curfews, lockdowns, migrant crisis, and then the whole deaths in railways and the migration, food crisis. There is a very big impending economic crisis. Some is already ongoing, and there is impending economic crisis. There is an issue of fuel distribution, food distribution. So there are tons of things. But how will you summarize? What are the key things that this COVID-19 crisis has revealed to us?
I can talk to you as a citizen in the most severely affected hotspot, which is Mumbai and Thane, the most densely
Mm-hmm.
populated part of the country also. So very naturally the
Mm-hmm.
most severely affected. There has also been some amount of politics and blame game around, because it's an opposition ruled state. There are certain ways the state government has tried to pass on the blame to the center and vice versa. So I'm not saying anyone comes out clean in this, but there have been some issues. I think the lockdown was imposed very quickly, perhaps because the government needed to be seen as doing something decisive and reassuring,
Mm-hmm.
and probably the short timeline did not necessarily. It's very hard to predict the future, and I think the entire migrant crisis that broke out was not predicted by anybody. In the
Absolutely.
it
And
was
I
not.
mean, yeah, so I think
Yeah.
instead of just saying that, look, government screwed up entirely, it's possible that had it been opposition parties, they would have done the same, because nobody, I think, realized that we will not be able to flatten the curve. And there are a lot of times where I like to say, look, I said so, because even when I was an academic in India, I made a lot of things on predicting disease thing and things which were suppressed, and it could have saved lives. But in this case, honestly, I was thinking the same thing as the government was, that, okay, it will take some days. I wasn't thinking 15, 20 days. I was thinking maximum in 2 months, they'll be able to curtail it. Now, in the retrospect, what has happened is, I think in India, they probably imposed the lockdown way too early. Most other countries where they've been able to flatten the curve, it was done later. And also, the socio-economic conditions were different. India's socio-economic conditions are similar to Pakistan, which has again also not been able to flatten the curve. So we have a lot of poor people who don't have the luxury of social distancing. They're living
The,
in small huts.
the interesting thing I've noticed is different states have responded in very different ways. So I think
Yeah.
Maharashtra has faced a particular problem because, see, the state is otherwise fairly okay. If you remove Mumbai and Thane districts from the statistics of Maharashtra, otherwise it is fairly low intensity, comparable to most of the
Mm-hmm.
other states. But now these are the two most densely populated parts of the state. And social distancing is simply impossible. In a city like Mumbai, where 60
Yeah.
to 70% of the population lives in slums, there are 10 people
Hmm.
cramped in a 6 by 4 space. I'm amazed how they sleep at night. But with this kind of population density, social distancing works beautifully in theory, I'm sure. And in places where there is plenty of, like in rural areas, for example, COVID 19 has never been a major problem. I don't think so. Whereas in a massively densely populated city like Mumbai, I think the only way you could
Hmm.
have enforced social distancing would have been to about, I say, evacuate 75% of the population, ask them to go away somewhere else, you know,
Hmm.
because the
Yeah.
density is just impossible to practice social distancing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then the other thing is the economic crisis came about because government wasn't expecting this migration to happen. I think it was expecting that it'll take few weeks, they'll get the things in control, which didn't happen.
Yes,
And the other thing which clearly I think they weren't fully planning, but it's been 6 years for me since I returned from US, and now I've got has corruption. At the taken down one of these prices, people are going to milk it. They are milking even food distribution. They are milking ticket registration. Right, every step of the way there is huge unorganized chaos. Right, trains are reaching some other stations, so it has revealed a lot of weaknesses. And one other thing which I kind of feel that it's revealed is healthcare is not in isolation. Healthcare is not the number of physicians you have. It's not the hospitals. It's not the
yes,
facilities. It's also tied to your economics. It's tied to even, your social cohesion. So when this crisis hits, people try to blame different religious groups and fight amongst each other rather than fighting the virus. So a lot of horrible things this has exposed. I think a pandemic exposes the worst of a society, and this is not the first time. This is not the first country,
right.
ranging from Black Death, right, in Europe, from witch burning and whatnot in Europe, all the way till now. I think we continue to be behaving closer to our, ancestors than the suave, refined humans that we pretend to be. So put us
That's
under stress.
Yeah, that's where I should tell you something from a corporate point of view. See, it is in an ideal world, the government would have war gamed all sorts of situations and acted accordingly. But in a case like this, where with public pressure mounting and the need to be seen as decisive and reactive to public opinion, I think it took the best advice it could get at that point of time. And I think at
Mhm.
that time, well, you could say it was a meme among governments that social distancing and self-isolation were the best ways, and the whole concept of flatten the curve. I
Yeah.
think in early March that became a very popular idea across governments of various countries. And then Italy was, I think, the first to actually impose a national lockdown. China, of course, just
Hmm.
locked down Hubei province. It did not impose the China-wide lockdown. And I think the government
Hmm.
took what decision it had to. I would not really blame the government at that side. I have come from corporate sector where there have been we've faced two financial crises, and neither could be decently war gamed by companies which are often supposed to have prepared for these kinds of situations. So, like, I will give you the
Hmm.
analogy of 2008 when insurance companies collapsed, right? The famous
Hmm.
AIG collapse. Now, this is funny
Hmm.
because of all things, you don't expect an insurance company to collapse. They are the ones who are supposed to be the best prepared for a crisis. So, in the same way, I
Absolutely.
think the government took what decision it could take, and
Hmm.
well, it probably didn't turn out the way it expected. No one thought the migrants would panic, but then I think it seems no one realized that these are people dependent on daily wages, and they have zero. If they don't earn that day, they don't eat that day. So I think that
Yeah.
part of somewhere in the advisory they could not take that into account, And even though they've tried with bank transfers and tried to ameliorate it, our I think our society is still fairly disorganized in that it hasn't helped. And so a lot of people
Yeah,
have thought that the only real solution is to trek the long way back home because, well, if I have to die, I'd rather die at home. So that, I think,
yeah.
that fatalistic
And
attitude took over. And I think that also complicated issues.
yeah, fatalism has is sort of, quite deep rooted in India.
Yeah.
There is other aspect also. So when the government has decided to help, it has taken a very sizable amount, but the way it is trying to help is more to boost economy rather than to what they will call handout, right? So it's not a Keynesian approach. It's not the FDR style approach. They are doing things with Manrega and all. So there is a fundamental problem. So I think there is a crisis in making because and I'm not trying to sound that socialistic saying that trickle down doesn't work. There are places where trickle down absolutely does not work, and there are examples where boosting economy is better than giving short-term aid. So I believe in a more pragmatic decision making rather than taking an
But,
approach which is governed by the old left-right paradigms.
right, but I think this pandemic has exposed every system out there. I mean, the most capitalist of countries sent everybody $1,200 home.
Exactly. So everyone is a Keynesian in a crisis,
Yes.
right? But
So,
India has chosen to be free market while otherwise it is not, right? Otherwise, every single political party is a populist, even if it comes at a cost of long-term development or growth of the country. So when it was really needed to be Keynesian, needed to be more Nehruvian, more socialist, they have decided to try to boost the economy from top by giving a lot of loans, amazingly good term loans, good infusion in industry. I mean, really great moves and otherwise for boosting economy. But what is needed is the poor man. So in India, whatever trickles down or whatever boosts economy takes actually longer. It's
well,
not
coming
so
from the
instantaneous.
corporate sector, I would be actually happy for the loans given because all these companies bailed out means I keep my job,
Yeah.
you know.
No, that is fine.
So,
I'm not against that. I just think the
yeah,
balance should have been better.
okay,
Uh, and I'm not necessarily saying that everyone should have been given cash,
right,
but the bottom of the society, right?
right.
India has around 400 plus million workers, bigger than population of USA combined. And of the workers, 130 million plus actually are migrant workers. So it's insanely large population which is there. So their direct cash deposits would have made a massive difference.
I think had the original scheme to to bring everybody into the banking sector really been implemented without flaws, this crisis would have been mitigated. But that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, so I think that was an interesting discussion. It has gone on for quite long. So we'll basically talk to Dipashri and Sharath. We'll break the episode into next one, and we'll be talking to Dipashri and Sharath, and maybe even more physicians in the next episode. Thank you very much
Right.
for your attention.
Thank you.